How to Break Bad Habits and Build a Life You Love, written and published by Audiobooks, Part 1. Why You Stay Stuck. The Psychology of Bad Habits said, bad habits don't just show up for no reason. They're not signs of weakness or laziness, and they're not personal failures. They're coping mechanisms, short-term solutions your mind created to feel better, safer, or in control. Whether it's constantly checking your phone, procrastinating on important work, eating when you're not hungry, or reacting with anger when things feel overwhelming, these habits exist for a reason. They started because, at some point, they worked. Maybe they gave you a sense of comfort. Maybe they helped you avoid something painful. Maybe they gave you a sense of control when you felt powerless. Now they've outstayed their welcome, but they won't leave just because you want them to. You have to understand them first, because no habit is broken by force. It's replaced by understanding. This is where real change begins. Then a craving kicks in, usually not for the habit itself, but for the relief it brings. You perform the routine, the behavior you've wired in, and finally there's the reward, temporary comfort, distraction, or escape. This is why bad habits are hard to break. Even if they hurt you in the long run, they offer some kind of relief right now. Your brain always favors relief now over consequences later. So if you try to remove the habit without replacing the reward, you'll constantly feel pulled back into it. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is still craving what it used to get from that behavior. This is where most people get stuck. The mistake we often make is trying to break a habit with willpower alone. We grit our teeth. We say things like, "That's it, I'm done." We declare the bad habit is over. No more sugar, no more social media, no more skipping the gym. And for a day or two we follow through. But then stress hits. Or we're tired, or life feels overwhelming again, and we snap back to what's familiar. Why? Because willpower is a temporary resource. It runs out, and when it does, your brain defaults to its most comfortable pattern. Lasting change isn't about willpower. It's about building a better system, one that rewires the habit at the root. One powerful way to interrupt a bad habit is to identify what it's really doing for you. Every bad habit provides a hidden benefit. Procrastination helps you avoid judgment or failure. Overeating numbs anxiety. Overspending gives a quick hit of dopamine. Social media helps you escape boredom or loneliness. Anger gives you temporary control in a chaotic world. You can't just remove these behaviors. You have to meet the need in a better way. Ask yourself, what emotional need is this habit meeting? Once you know that, you can start to replace it. Not with punishment, but with something healthier. Something that builds the life you want, not just protects you from discomfort. Another key to changing bad habits is changing the story you tell yourself. If you constantly repeat things like, "I've always been like this, I can't help it, that's just who I am," then you're reinforcing the identity of someone who stays stuck. But if you start to shift that identity, even subtly, you change what's possible. Instead of "I'm terrible with time," try "I'm learning to manage my time better." Instead of "I have no discipline," try "I'm building discipline, one step at a time." This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about telling a more useful truth. Because the strongest habits are the ones tied to your identity. When you believe "I'm someone who takes care of their body," healthy choices become easier. When you believe "I'm someone who finishes what they start," procrastination feels out of place. Behavior follows belief. So build a new belief that aligns with the person you're becoming. Let's talk about why change feels so hard. It's not because you're incapable, it's because your brain is built to resist uncertainty. The unknown feels risky. Even if your current habit is hurting you, it's familiar. And to the brain, familiar means safe. That's why so many people stay stuck in cycles they hate. They'd rather stay in discomfort they recognize than face uncertainty they fear. But the truth is, growth always lives on the other side of discomfort. You won't feel ready. You won't feel certain. You'll have doubts. That's normal. The goal isn't to eliminate doubt. The goal is to act anyway. Because with every small action you take, you begin to show your brain that new doesn't mean dangerous. It just means different. And over time, different becomes normal. That's how transformation sticks. Here's what works. Start small, micro changes, tiny wins. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need a few actions you can repeat. Because repetition is what rewires the brain. Small, simple steps, done consistently, create powerful shifts. Don't try to stop scrolling for an hour, just delete the app for one day. Don't commit to a 6 a.m. gym habit instantly. Just put on your shoes and walk for 10 minutes. Don't try to change your diet overnight. Just replace one processed meal with something whole. Success is not built on intensity, it's built on momentum. And momentum starts when you give yourself permission to start small and keep going. Now it's your turn. Choose one habit that's been holding you back. Name it, own it, understand what it gives you. And ask yourself, what need is this meeting? What's one healthier way I can meet that same need? What small step can I take today to move toward the life I want? Because that's how change begins. Not with force, not with guilt, but with awareness, honesty, and one small, better decision. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to build. And you've just taken your first step.
Part 2. The hidden triggers that keep you stuck. Isekai. Most people try to fix their bad habits at the surface. They look at the behavior and try to force it to stop. But habits don't start with action. They start with triggers. A trigger is anything that tells your brain, do the thing. It could be takai, a time of day, a certain emotion, a particular person or place, a smell, sound, or even a memory, or just a mental state like boredom or anxiety. Most bad habits aren't random. They're responses to predictable cues. And once you begin to recognize these triggers, you start to regain control over your behavior. You don't have to break the habit in the moment. You can start by removing or reshaping the moments that lead to the habit. Let's take an example. Say every night at 10 p.m., you find yourself scrolling on your phone for hours. You hate it, but you do it anyway. You might think I have no discipline, but if you zoom out, you'll see the trigger. Maybe you're tired and your mind wants an escape. Maybe you're lonely or feeling unaccomplished after the day. Maybe your bedroom lighting, your posture, and your open apps all send a cue. Time to check out. The behavior isn't the problem. The problem is that your environment and emotional state are creating automatic permission for the habit to take over. One of the fastest ways to break a bad habit is to break the trigger loop. Here's how you do that. Ask yourself, what typically happens right before I do this? What am I feeling? Where am I? Who am I around? Interrupt the routine. Once you know the trigger, change something, anything about what happens next. Replace the response. Don't just remove the habit, add something in its place that's healthy or neutral. They make it easy to choose differently. Your brain prefers the path of least resistance. If the good option is easier than the bad one, you're more likely to follow through. Here's a practical breakdown. Bad habit. Snacking late at night when you're not hungry. Trigger. Watching TV alone after dinner. Craving, comfort, stimulation, or just doing something with your hands. Routine. Get up, go to the kitchen, want something sweet. Reward. You feel momentarily soothed or distracted. To break this loop, identify that watching TV alone at night leads to snacking. Change the pattern. Maybe turn off the TV earlier, or swap for reading. Replace the snack with tea, journaling, or even brushing your teeth right after dinner. Make the snack harder to access. Don't keep it in the house. Make the better option easier. Prepare your tea ahead of time. That's how you begin to rewire the pattern. Not by shame, not by restriction, but by design. Let's talk about emotional triggers, because these are even more powerful than environmental ones. Most people don't realize that their worst habits show up when they feel the weakest. Not when things are going well, but when they're anxious, insecure, lonely, overwhelmed, tired, rejected. That's when the mind reaches for what's familiar. Because familiar, safe, even if it's destructive. So if you only focus on the habit itself, without learning how to manage your emotional states, you're going to keep relapsing. The key isn't just behavior control, it's emotional awareness. Ask yourself, when I do this habit, what am I feeling right before? What am I trying to escape? What does this habit protect me from? Awareness doesn't always stop the habit immediately, but it gives you space. And in that space you can choose differently. Let's go deep. Imagine you could pause the next time a bad habit tries to take over. Right before you open that app. Right before you eat that snack. Right before you send that angry message. Right before you shut down or check out. In that space, you ask yourself, what do I really need right now? Most of the time it's not the habit. It's rest, reassurance, peace, a connection, self-respect. Once you understand what your real need is, you can meet it directly, instead of trying to mask it with a shortcut behavior. This is how you begin to build new patterns from the inside out. There's another important truth here. Your environment shapes your behavior. You can have all the motivation in the world, but if your environment is set up to feed your worst habits, you will lose that battle over and over. For example, if your phone is the first thing you see in the morning, your brain will crave stimulation before clarity. If junk food is within reach, your future self has to fight the temptation every single time. If your workspace is cluttered and chaotic, your mind will mirror that disorder. If you're surrounded by people who reinforce unhealthy habits, you'll be pulled back down. You can't build a new life in an old environment. Sometimes the most powerful act of self-care is rearranging your space. Make healthy habits easier to do. Make destructive ones harder. Simple changes make a huge difference. Evitus. Put your phone in another room when you go to sleep. Keep only one healthy snack visible. Lay your workout clothes out the night before. Create visual reminders of the person you're becoming. This isn't about being rigid. It's about removing friction. You are not failing because you're not trying hard enough. You're struggling because you haven't yet designed your life to support who you want to be. The mind is powerful, but it needs support. It needs consistency. And it needs assist. When you begin to understand your triggers, both environmental and emotional, you'll start to see that your habits were never random. They were built. And if they were built, they can be unbuilt. You don't need to fight yourself. You just need to understand yourself. That's where change begins. Not with judgment, but with clarity.
Part 3. The Identity Shift. Why real change sticks when you become someone new. Changing your behavior is hard if you still believe you're the same person. That's why most people relapse even weeks of effort. They try to change their habits but not the identity behind them. You can build systems, track your habits, and design the perfect routine. But if deep down you still see yourself as the kind of person who always messes up, then eventually your actions will align with that identity. Lasting change happens when you stop asking, "What do I want to do?" and start asking, "Who do I want to become?" Because when your identity shifts, your actions naturally follow. Let's break this down. Most people operate from this formula: outcome, action, identity. They think, if I can lose 10 pounds, then I'll start feeling disciplined. If I can start waking up early, then I'll be a morning person. If I can finally stop procrastinating, then I'll feel like someone who's in control. But this is backwards. Real transformation flips the formula. Identity, action, outcome. It starts with deciding who you are. When you believe I'm the kind of person who values my health, then eating clean becomes natural. When you believe I'm a focused person, then you begin protecting your time and attention. Your beliefs shape your behavior. So if you want new behavior, you need new beliefs. But here's the important part. Identity is not fixed. You weren't born a procrastinator, a quitter, or someone who lacks willpower. Those are stories, and stories can change. The first step is to stop reinforcing the old narrative. Stop saying, "I'm terrible at finishing things. I always fall back into old patterns." Every time you say those words, your brain reinforces them. You train yourself to act according to the story, even if you hate the story. Instead, try something different. Try catching yourself in the act of self-sabotage and say, "This is not who I'm becoming." That one sentence creates space, and in that space, you can make a better choice. One of the most powerful tools for identity change is called evidence stacking. Here's how it works. Each small action you take becomes a vote for the person you want to be.
You turn your phone off during work. Vote for I value my focus. You go to bed without scrolling. Vote for I protect my peace. It doesn't take one giant decision to change your life. It takes thousands of small votes for your future self. Even if 80% of your actions are still old patterns, the 20% that reflect who you're becoming are starting to shift the balance. Here's the mistake many people make. They wait to feel like the new version of themselves before they act like them. But the truth is, action creates belief. You don't become confident first. You act confident until you feel it. You don't wait to be disciplined. You practice discipline in small ways until it becomes who you are. You don't wait to be motivated. You take action, and motivation grows from the momentum. Identity change is not a moment. It's a series of choices. You build it by repeating actions that align with your values, catching yourself when you fall back into old patterns, forgiving yourself quickly, returning to the version of you that you're building, not abandoning it the first time you slip. Let's talk about what happens when you fall off track, because you will. Everyone does. Here's what most people do when they relapse into a bad habit. They get frustrated. They shame themselves. They assume they've failed, and they return to their old identity. See? I knew I couldn't stick with it. That's not falling off track. That's letting one step backward turn into 10. Instead, you can reframe it. When you slip, simply say, that wasn't like me, but I know who I'm becoming. Then take the smallest next step back into alignment. Forgive fast. Adjust quickly. Keep moving. It's not the relapse that defines you. It's the response. There's another layer to identity shift, and that's what you normalize. We rise or fall to the standards we accept. If everyone around you normalizes skipping workouts, eating junk, and making excuses, then growth will always feel uphill. But if you spend time around people who normalize progress, who expect more from themselves, who take ownership and show up daily, you'll begin to see that as your standard too. Environment isn't just physical, it's relational. So be mindful of who has access to your mindset. Build relationships with people who reflect who you want to become, not who you're trying to outgrow. You don't need to become a different person. You just need to reconnect with the version of you that's been buried under habits, pain, fear, and stories that no longer serve you. That version already exists. You see glimpses of them in moments of clarity. You feel their strength when you keep your promise, even when it's hard. You hear their voice when you decide to try again. This audiobook isn't just about breaking habits. It's about breaking cycles of self-doubt, self-sabotage, and smallness. You're building a new identity, one choice, one belief, one vote at a time. Part 4. The Power of Systems. Why Goals Aren't Enough. Everyone sets goals. You've done it. You've written them down, visualized them, told friends about them. You've promised this time will be different. But if goals were enough, we'd all be thriving. The truth is, goals don't create change. Systems do. A goal is a destination. A system is the process that gets you there. And it's your process, not your passion, that determines your progress. Here's why goals often fail. They're outcome-focused instead of behavior-focused. They rely on motivation, which always fades. They create pressure, not clarity. And worst of all, they don't address the habits that are blocking your success. For example, goal, wake up at 5. Reality, you still go to bed past midnight, sleep with your phone beside you, and binge YouTube to fall asleep. The system isn't built for success. So no matter how motivated you feel on day 1, you end up repeating day 0 by day 3. Let's reframe this. Instead of asking, what's the goal? Ask, what's the system I need to support this identity? Because goals are temporary. Systems are sustainable. Anyone can set a goal to write a book, but a system says, I write 500 words each morning before the day begins. Anyone can aim to get fit, but a system says, I train 3 times a week at 7 a.m., no matter what. Anyone can say they want to spend less time online, but a system says, No phone until after my first deep work block. See the difference? Systems remove emotion from the equation. You don't have to feel like it. You just follow the structure. Let's walk through how to build a system that supports your identity and breaks bad habits at the root. Step 1. Define the identity, not just the outcome. Instead of "I want to stop procrastinating," say, "I'm building the identity of someone who finishes what they start." That shift turns external pressure into internal alignment. It's not about forcing results. It's about becoming a person who naturally produces them. Step 2. Design your environment to support that identity. Your space should pull you into success, not sabotage. Examples: place your workout clothes on your chair at night. Block distracting websites for the first 2 hours of your day. Delete the app that you know drains your focus. Keep your planner visible, not buried in a drawer. When your environment is a cue for progress, you don't have to rely on willpower. You just step into the path that's already prepared. Step 3. Build micro habits that can scale. Start small, unreasonably small. Why? Because small habits are easy to repeat, and repetition is how you rewire. 1 push-up, 1 paragraph, 1 glass of water, 1 page of a book. You're not trying to do everything at once. You're building the muscle of consistency. Small habits do 2 powerful things. They prove to your brain that change is happening. They lower the resistance to action, which is the real enemy. Because once you start, momentum takes over. Step 4. Attach the new habit to something you already do. This is called habit stacking, and it works. Here's the formula. After I current habit, I will new habit. Examples: after I make my bed, I'll journal for 60 seconds. After I brush my teeth, I'll do 5 minutes of stretching. After I pour my coffee, I'll review my goals. After I turn off my alarm, I'll take 3 deep breaths and say, "Today, I show up strong." This works because your brain is already conditioned to do the first part. You're simply layering in something new, while the neural path is open. Step 5. Track progress in a way that feels rewarding. Most people give up on new habits because they don't see results fast enough. But that's not how habits work. Habits compound. You won't see transformation after 3 days. You might not even feel different after 3 weeks. But stick with it for 3 months, and your entire identity starts to shift. That's why tracking matters. Not for perfection, but for momentum. Use a calendar, habit tracker app, or notebook. Mark a simple X every time you complete the habit. The goal isn't streaks, it's evidence. Proof that you're becoming the kind of person who follows through. Here's a powerful mindset shift. They don't measure success by how fast you go. Measure it by how often you return. Anyone can get hyped and go hard for 3 days. Winners are the ones who get back up on day 4, and day 11, and day 29. Your system should support your bounce back. It should be flexible, forgiving, and designed for real life. Not every day will be perfect. That's not the point. The point is to build habits so ingrained they carry you through the imperfect days too. Remember, every action you take is casting a vote, not for the result, but for the kind of person you believe you are. So instead of chasing outcomes, focus on your system. Build the process. Live inside it. Trust that it's working, even when it feels slow. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Now is the time to build one worth falling into. Part 5. Mastering self-control. Training the muscle of discipline. Self-control isn't something you either have or don't have. It's not a personality trait. It's not fixed at birth. It's a muscle, and just like any muscle, it can be trained, strengthened, and stretched over time. The biggest myth about breaking bad habits is this: I just need more willpower. But the truth is, willpower is unreliable. It gets depleted. It weakens under stress. And most importantly, it's not a long-term strategy. Instead of relying on willpower to resist temptation, high performers use structure, clarity, and identity to guide their actions. Let's start with what drains your self-control. Decision fatigue. Making too many small choices in a day weakens your ability to make good ones later. Constant temptation. If your environment is full of triggers, you're using energy just trying to resist stress and emotion. When you're overwhelmed, your brain seeks comfort, not discipline. Lack of sleep and fuel. A tired, undernourished body cannot support a focused mind. So the first step to mastering self-control is not trying harder. It's setting up your life so you don't need to try as hard. This is the mindset shift. I don't rise to the level of my discipline. I fall to the level of my desire. Design your day to minimize friction. Look at your routines. Are you making good choices easy and bad choices hard? Let's take a few examples. Want to avoid social media in the morning? Keep your phone out of the bedroom. Want to stay consistent with your workout? Lay out your clothes the night before and block the time in your calendar. Self-control is about eliminating optional failure. Don't wait until you're in the moment of weakness. Prepare so that moment never arrives. Practice pre-deciding your behavior. Most bad decisions happen because we leave the door open. We think, I'll start tomorrow. But high achievers close that door before the moment comes. They decide in advance, at 7 a.m. I train. No debate. After dinner I don't snack. Period. This removes the need to decide in real time, which is when your self-control is weakest. Clarity is power. Vagueness is a trap. When your rules are clear, your energy can go toward execution, not negotiation. Use the 2-minute rule to defeat procrastination. When a task feels overwhelming, your brain resists. It tells you it's too hard, too long, too complicated. Enter the 2-minute rule. If it takes more than 2 minutes, just start it for 2 minutes. Why? Because starting creates momentum. You don't need to write the whole chapter. Just open the doc and write 1 sentence. You don't need to clean the whole kitchen. Just wash 1 dish. You don't need to meditate for an hour. Just sit in silence for 2 minutes. Once you begin, your brain gets invested. Action kills resistance. This is how you train discipline, by proving that you start what you say you'll start. Understand the power of delayed gratification. People with strong self-control don't enjoy discomfort. They've just learned to value long-term rewards more than short-term comfort. They ask, will this decision serve the future me? Will I be proud of this choice an hour from now? Is this feeling worth trading my progress? Discipline is the ability to pause between impulse and action, to feel the craving but not obey it, to see the shortcut but not take it, to want relief but choose growth. And each time you do, your mental muscle strengthens. You stop being a prisoner of emotion and become the architect of your future. Create friction for your bad habits. One of the most effective strategies for self-control is making bad choices harder to accept. You don't need more willpower if the temptation isn't within reach. Log out of the distracting apps. Turn off notifications completely. Leave your phone in another room during deep work. Use website blockers during peak hours. Don't keep junk food in the house. Make your couch less appealing than your workout mat. Behavior follows if it's easy, you'll do it. So flip the script. Make bad habits inconvenient and good habits automatic. Track your behavior to build self-awareness. We can't change what we don't notice. Start writing down the moments you gave into impulse. Ask yourself, what was I feeling right before? What was the environment? Was this the old version of me acting or the new one? This isn't about judgment. It's about, because every slip teaches you something. A trigger you didn't recognize, a pattern you didn't see, a lie you told yourself in the moment. Now you know, and now you can prepare. This is how self-control becomes not a battle but a strategy. Anchor your discipline to your future identity. Remind yourself daily of why this matters. Not the habit, not the rule, but the person you're becoming. You're not just skipping dessert. You're becoming someone who respects their body. You're not just doing the hard task first. You're becoming someone who leads their day with focus. You're not just turning your phone off at night. You're becoming someone who protects their peace. When your decisions are connected to identity, they carry purpose. And purpose beats pleasure every time. The truth is, you don't lack discipline. You lack systems that protect your discipline. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. You don't need to force yourself. You need to trust that your small wins are stacking into something powerful. This is the practice. This is the training. This is the way forward. Part 6. The role of your environment. How to design a life that supports change. You're not weak. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're probably just fighting your environment. Because here's the truth. Your habits are shaped more by your environment than by your motivation. You can have the strongest intention in the world, but if your surroundings constantly nudge you toward distraction, comfort, or chaos, you'll always feel like you're swimming upstream. Change becomes easier when you stop relying on willpower and start building a world around you that helps you win. Let's start by rethinking what environment really means. It's more than just your physical space. Your environment includes the layout of your home or workspace, the digital tools and apps you use, the people you spend time with, the media you consume, the habits of the people around you, the default choices you've built into your daily life. All of it, every cue, every trigger, every structure either moves you toward progress, or it pulls you back into old patterns. Your environment is your silent coach. Here's what that means. If your desk is clean and organized, it whispers, "Let's focus." If your journal and pen are placed by your coffee in the morning, they say, "Let's reflect." If your phone is the first thing you see when you wake up, it screams, "Distraction time." If your pantry is full of processed snacks, it says, "Comfort is always available." You don't realize it, but your surroundings are always shaping your behavior. And if you don't design your environment intentionally, you'll be shaped by it accidentally. Design for ease, not effort. Bad habits are attractive because they're easy. They're convenient. They're one tap away. They don't require thought or setup. So your job is to make good habits easier than bad ones. Let's get practical. Want to work out in the morning? Lay your clothes and shoes out the night before. Want to read more? Keep your book visible on your pillow, desk, or coffee table. Want to stop binge scrolling? Log out of apps, hide them in folders, or delete them from your phone. Want to write more? Create a distraction-free workspace with only one open tab. Want to eat better? Prep meals in advance and keep junk food out of reach. Make your best choices the default, not the exception. Create zones of behavior. Your brain associates certain places with certain actions. If you always eat on the couch, your brain links couch with snacking. If your phone is always in bed with you, your brain links bed with scrolling. That's why behavior change often fails. It's happening in a space built for the old you. You can fix this by creating behavior zones in your environment. Your desk, deep work and creation. Your kitchen, in nourishment. Your reading chair, learning. Your phone drawer, silence after 8 p.m. Your bedroom, rest only. No screens allowed. When each space has a purpose, you activate the right behavior just by entering the room. This is location-based habit design, and it works. Declutter the noise. Clutter creates decision fatigue. Visual distractions lower your focus. Overloaded environments increase stress. One of the fastest ways to change how you feel is to change what you see. Start here. Clean your workspace before you start your day. Keep only the tools you need within arm's reach. Organize your digital desktop. Close unused tabs. Archive old files. Remove items from your space that pull attention without adding value. Your environment should feel like a cue for calm, not a battlefield of resistance. Change your people, change your patterns. You are not just the product of your habits. You are the product of the habits of the people around you. This is uncomfortable but powerful. If your friends normalize complaining, laziness, or excuses, guess what becomes your default? If your circle values growth, health, and ownership, your baseline will rise automatically. It's not about cutting everyone off. It's about being intentional about who influences your mindset daily. Ask yourself, who challenges me to be better? Who drains my energy or lowers my standards? Who shows me what's possible? Upgrade your environment by upgrading your proximity. Follow people online who inspire growth. Join communities built on discipline and integrity. Spend time with those whose habits reflect your future, not your past. Use reminders and visual cues. One small sign can change your behavior. A sticky note, a quote on the wall, A lock screen reminder. A calendar block labeled Future Me Time. Visual cues create mental interruption points. Tiny moments where you pause and choose again. They say, hey, remember who you're becoming. Try this. Put it on your bathroom mirror, desk or phone case. Let it interrupt the autopilot patterns. Sometimes one glance is all it takes to realign. Protect your digital environment. Your phone and laptop are your second brain. If they're messy, distracted, or overstimulating, so are you. Some simple shifts. They can turn off all non-essential notifications. Use Do Not Disturb during creative hours. Delete apps that steal time without delivering value. Use grayscale mode to reduce screen addictions. Use browser extensions to block time-wasting sites. You're human, but humans need boundaries to thrive. Create a digital space that reflects peace, purpose, and power. Your environment will either protect your progress or pull you backward. It will support your identity or sabotage it. The good news: you're the architect. You don't have to change your whole life overnight. Start small. One drawer, one folder, one habit station, one room. Build an environment where the future you doesn't just survive, they thrive. Part 7. The internal battle. Mastering the voice in your head. Dead. Habits are not just physical routines. They are deeply emotional, psychological, and above all mental patterns. Before every action, there is a thought. Before every habit, there is a story you tell yourself. And if that story doesn't change, your behavior won't either. In this part, we're going deep. Because if you want to break bad habits for good, you must master the voice in your head. The voice you hear most is your own. You speak to yourself all day long. In moments of failure, you always mess this up. What's the point? Why even try again? In moments of temptation, just one more time. You'll start fresh tomorrow. This doesn't count. That voice, that script. It's not harmless. It's the operating system your brain runs on. And every habit you build or break starts with a belief you hold about yourself. Self-talk is self-programming. Here's the truth. You don't act according to who you want to be. You act according to who you believe you are. If you believe you're inconsistent, you'll find ways to prove it. If you believe you're lazy, you'll give in when things get hard. If you believe change is impossible, your actions will match that belief. But if you believe you are disciplined, growth-oriented, and resilient, your choices start to reflect that. Even on tough days. This is why mastering your self-talk is non-negotiable. Become the observer of your thoughts. The first step is to stop reacting and start noticing. Catch the script. Listen to the narrative. Next time you break a promise to yourself, pause and ask, what did I say to myself right before I gave in? What emotion was I avoiding or chasing? Was this decision aligned with who I'm becoming? Write it down. Build awareness. You can't change what you're unconscious to. This isn't about judgment. It's about clarity. Because clarity gives you leverage. Rewrite the script. Once you've identified the negative pattern, it's time to replace it. Not with fake positivity, but with grounded, identity-based truth. Let's say your old script says, you never follow through. Rewrite it as, I am learning to show up for myself, even when it's hard. I keep my promises, starting now. I don't need to be perfect. I need to be consistent. Repetition is key. The brain believes what it hears most often, especially from you. Speak the identity you want to live into. Use identity-based affirmations. Affirmations are not magic words. They're identity reminders. The most powerful affirmations begin with I am. Try these. I am no longer available for anything that lowers my standards. Say them aloud. Write them down. Put them where you can see them. Mirror, lock screen, journal. You're not just saying them. You're training your subconscious to act in alignment with them. Talk to yourself like someone you care about. Most people speak to themselves with cruelty they'd never use on someone else. But shame doesn't create change. It creates cycle. You mess up. You criticize yourself. You feel worse. You repeat the habit. To break this, practice compassionate self-discipline. That means holding yourself to a high standard, but responding to setbacks with understanding, not punishment. Say, that wasn't my best choice, but I know why it happened, and I know how I'll respond better next time. You're not coddling yourself, you're coaching yourself. Big difference. Learn to pause between stimulus and response. In the moment of temptation, there's a space between the trigger and the reaction, between the craving and the action. In that space lies power. Most people never find that space. They're on autopilot. But you can learn to pause, breathe, and choose again. This is mindfulness, not meditation, but awareness. You feel the urge, but you don't act. You observe the thought, but you don't obey it. You ride the wave of emotion without being dragged under. This is the moment you reclaim control. Train the voice for the future you. Your self-talk should not reflect who you've been. It should speak for who you're becoming. Here's what that sounds like. This is a new moment, and I get to choose differently. Every time I resist the old pattern, I become stronger. This small win matters. It's part of something bigger. Discomfort now is freedom later. Your voice becomes your weapon, not against yourself, but for yourself. You don't need to silence your inner critic. You just need to train a stronger inner coach. And with every repetition, every pause, every redirect, every intentional phrase, you become the kind of person who no longer acts out of fear, shame, or weakness. You act out of identity, intention, and belief. And that's the foundation of any life worth building. Part 8. Momentum over motivation. How small wins lead to massive change each eyes. Most people wait for motivation to strike before they take action. They think, once I feel ready, I'll start. When I'm in the mood, I'll show up. If I had more energy, I'd be consistent. But here's the truth you need to burn into your mindset. The eyes. Action creates motivation. Momentum builds belief. Small wins change your identity. If you wait for motivation, you'll be waiting forever. Winners don't wait. They move and let motivation catch up. The science of momentum. In physics, Newton's first law says an object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. That's not just true for matter. It's true for your habits, your goals, your life. The hardest part is getting started. The second hardest part is starting again after a setback. But once you're in motion, even a tiny bit, you build inertia. And that's where your confidence comes from. Not from being perfect, but from proving to yourself that you move forward. Stop trying to change everything at once. You don't need to rebuild your entire life overnight. You just need to get one brick laid. The reason most people fail is because they attempt a total life overhaul. Start waking up at 5 a.m. Meditate for 30 minutes. Quit sugar, caffeine, and social media. Start a new business. Journal every night. Hit the gym 6 days a week. It's too much, too fast, too fragile. Instead, shift to this mindset. One win. Today. That's it. Can you prep your clothes for tomorrow's walk? Can you clean one corner of your space? Can you sit in silence for 50 seconds? This works because it removes overwhelm. You stop trying to conquer the future. You just win now. The compound effect of small wins. James Clear said it best. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. A small, consistent action might seem insignificant today, but over time the returns are exponential. Think of it like this. Day 1, you read 1 page. Day 10, you've finished a chapter. Day 30, you've finished a book. Day 90, you've finished 3 books and changed how you think. That's the power of small wins. They stack. They accumulate. They build belief. Because with every win, no matter how small, you're reinforcing this identity. I am someone who shows up. Track your streaks. The human brain craves progress. When you track it, you reinforce it. Use a habit tracker, a calendar, a notebook, anything. Each time you show up, mark it. Did your morning routine? A bore. Said no to the late night snack. Wrote your gratitude journal. A bore. These visual wins do 2 things. Create momentum. Build accountability with yourself. And once you get a streak going, you won't want to break it. Stack habits into routines. Habits love patterns. So instead of forcing each action independently, connect them. This is called habit stacking. For example, after I brush my teeth, I meditate for 2 minutes. After I pour my coffee, I write one journal entry. After I close my laptop at 5 p.m., I put on my shoes and go for a walk. The brain starts to associate these habits as a chain. One leads to the next. Automatically, soon your life is built on smooth, silent systems, not struggling effort. The story you build by showing up. Every time you follow through, especially when you don't feel like it, you're writing a new internal narrative. This is who I am now. I don't need to feel perfect to take action. I finish what I start. Even on tough days, I move forward. That narrative is more powerful than any motivational quote, because it's built on experience, not theory. And the more often you prove it true, the harder it becomes to go back to your old self. Don't underestimate 1% progress. You don't need to crush it every day. You just need to get a little better than yesterday. That might mean 1 minute longer in the gym, 1 less scroll before bed, 1 better food choice at lunch, 1 honest conversation you used to avoid. These 1% shifts are what separate those who change from those who stay stuck. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. You don't have to be ahead of everyone, just ahead of who you were yesterday. When you fall off, come back quickly. Slipping isn't the problem. Staying down is. Everyone misses a day. Everyone has a low moment. What matters is how fast you recover. The rule is, never miss twice. Skip a workout, fine. Show up tomorrow. Eat off plan. Cool. Your next meal is a clean slate. Forgot to journal? No problem. Restart tonight. The faster you rebound, the stronger your identity becomes, because your consistency isn't measured by how often you fall, but by how often you return. You don't need more hype. You need more wins. Small, honest, steady wins. Because those wins become proof. That proof becomes identity. That identity becomes destiny. Part 9. How to turn setbacks into growth. The psychology of rebound and resilience. Breaking bad habits is not a linear journey. It's messy. It's frustrating. It's full of setbacks. You will slip. You will fall back into old patterns. You will have days that feel like failure, but that's not the end of your story. It's part of your story. And if you can learn how to use setbacks as stepping stones instead of signs to quit, you'll build the most powerful trait of all: resilience. Most people quit too early. Here's the pattern. They start strong. They hit a wall. They slip up. They feel ashamed. They assume they've failed. They give up completely. But a setback isn't failure unless you use it as an excuse to stop. Winners slip too, but they get up faster. They don't aim for perfection. They aim for progress that survives imperfection. That's the game. That's progress isn't lost, it's paused. Let's say you've been consistent for 2 weeks, meditating, eating clean, journaling. Then you have a rough day and binge junk food, skip your workout and scroll for hours. You feel like you erased everything. But that's not how real change works. You didn't undo your progress. You just pressed pause. What matters now is what you do next. You have a choice. Make the mistake the end of your story, or make it the turning point. That choice builds your resilience muscle. Reframe setbacks as data, not drama. When you slip, don't spiral into guilt. Instead, pause and ask, what led to that choice? What was I feeling right before? What need was I trying to meet? What would I do differently next time? This is how high performers think. They don't just feel, they analyze. They treat every misstep as feedback. Because if you can learn from it, you didn't fail. You grew. The power of the comeback mindset. You are not defined by how you start. You are defined by how you recover. When you build a comeback habit, you shift from being results-driven to resilience-driven. This means you expect resistance. You expect emotional dips. You prepare for slumps. You learn to bounce back automatically. Comeback strength is built by doing the hard thing again and again. even when your emotions don't agree. Build your reset ritual. One of the most powerful tools for turning around a bad day is a reset ritual. It's a simple routine that gets you back on track after you've slipped. Here's an example. Step 1. Take a deep breath. Step 2. Say a reset phrase, e.g., I begin again. Step 3. Do one small win, e.g., drink water, go for a walk, clean your space. Step 4. Reflect. Journal for 3 minutes. Step 5. Move forward like nothing happened. You're not pretending the mistake didn't happen. You're just refusing to let it own your momentum. Stop labeling yourself based on behavior. You are not your habits. You are the creator of your habits. Just because you overate doesn't mean you're undisciplined. Just because you skipped a routine doesn't mean you're a quitter. Just because you fell short doesn't mean you're broken. Behavior is temporary. Identity is shaped by how you respond to behavior. Use the phrase, "That's not like me. I usually show up stronger." Speak from your highest self, even when your performance doesn't match it yet. Normalize failure. It means you're trying. The only people who never fail are the ones who never attempt anything. If you're failing, it means you're in the arena. You're fighting for something better. You're stretching beyond your comfort zone. Failure is not the opposite of growth. It's the path to growth. Every successful person you admire, they failed more times than you've started. The difference? They didn't stop when you feel like giving up. Zoom out. Your brain wants immediate results. It panics when change isn't instant. That's why, after a setback, it says, "Hey, this isn't working. You're not cut out for this. Why even bother?" This is when you need to zoom out. Look at the past 90 days, the past year, the direction of your life. Ask, am I better than I was? Am I more aware, intentional, or focused than I used to be? Even with setbacks, am I still showing up? If the answer is yes, you're on the right path. Stack bounce backs as evidence. Every time you recover from a setback, you build identity equity. I bounce back quickly. I don't stay stuck. I'm not afraid of starting again. These are not affirmations. They're truths you earn by experience. Your resilience becomes your superpower, not because you avoid failure, but because you know how to face it with strength. This is how you build a life you love, not by being perfect, but by refusing to quit, by rewriting your story every time you fall, by becoming the kind of person who always comes back stronger. That's your power now. Part 10. Becoming the person who no longer needs to break bad habits. Breaking bad habits is not just about changing behavior, it's about becoming someone who no longer needs those habits. This is the final shift, the deep identity transformation, the point where willpower turns into instinct, where what once felt hard becomes who you are. This is where you stop chasing discipline and start embodying it. Let's get there together. The habits you're trying to break once served you. Every bad habit, at some point, was your attempt to meet a need. You scrolled to escape stress. You procrastinated to avoid fear. You ate junk food to comfort pain. You stayed up late to feel in control. You skipped workouts to avoid discomfort. You weren't weak, you were coping. But now, you've outgrown the method. This is why lasting change isn't just about force. It's about replacing the habit with something that serves you better. The 1% don't just remove, they replace with purpose. Your identity must align with your future. If you want new results, you need a new self-concept. Here's the truth: you will never outperform your identity for long. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with consistency, you'll unconsciously act in ways that prove that story true. To break free, start thinking from the future you. Ask, how does my future self think? What choices do they make? What do they do when they're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed? How do they handle setbacks? What do they say no to, without guilt? Then act like them now. This is identity-based change, and it's the foundation of transformation. Systems. Goals. Goals are helpful, but systems create identity. If your goal is to stop eating junk, but your environment is full of temptation and stress, you'll fail. no matter how motivated you are. But if you build a system that reinforces the behavior you want, you'll win without needing as much willpower. Some examples: keep your space clean and clear to reduce friction. Make good choices the default, not the exception. Environment shapes behavior. Your surroundings either pull you toward progress or push you toward relapse. Take inventory. Who do you spend time with? What fills your feed? What triggers your worst habits? What supports your best ones? Sometimes you don't need more motivation. You need a different environment. Change your inputs, upgrade your circle, create a space that makes your future self feel at home. You are the architect of your world. Anchor yourself with non-negotiables. High performers don't rely on motivation. They rely on non-negotiables, the small routines they do no matter what. Examples: 10 minutes of reading, daily journaling, drinking water before coffee, no phone for the first 30 minutes of the day, reviewing goals every Sunday. These actions keep them grounded, even when life gets messy. Start with one. Make it sacred. Build your foundation on it. Protect your energy like it's currency. Every decision, every thought, every emotion costs energy. Wasting it on overthinking, guilt, comparison, or regret drains you. But when you sleep well, eat clean, move daily, protect your time, say no to distractions, you become sharp, clear, and focused. You stop reacting. You start responding. This is the state where growth feels natural. Because you're no longer surviving, you're strategizing. Fall in love with boring consistency. Change isn't always exciting. In fact, it's often boring. The same meals, the same workouts, the same journaling routine, the same decisions, day after day. But that's where greatness lives. Success is just consistency with purpose. And the moment you stop needing every day to feel inspiring, you start building habits that stick forever. Forgive your past self, but outgrow them. Maybe you've tried and failed 100 times. Maybe you've been inconsistent, lost momentum, and beat yourself up for it. But the version of you who struggled, they got you here. They fought in ways no one saw. They survived things people wouldn't understand. Now, it's your time to evolve. Not to resent your past, but to outgrow it. You owe that version of you one thing: to become your best. Make excellence your default. Excellence isn't about being better than others. It's about refusing to tolerate anything less than your best. It's not perfectionism. It's pride in how you show up, in how you speak to yourself, in how you treat your mind, body, and future. Make this your standard. I don't rise to the level of my goals. I fall to the level of my systems, and I build excellent ones. You no longer chase motivation. You live by principles. You no longer break habits. You build identity. That's the difference. That's what it means to break bad habits and build a life you love. And now, that's what you do every day. Thank you for listening to How to Break Bad Habits and Build a Life You Love. Written and published by Audiobooks. You've changed your mind. You've changed your behavior. Now go change your life.